When people hear that Brian lost 99 pounds in 5 months and kept it off for over 3 years, there's always a question that comes up. What supplements was he taking? And that question makes sense, because when results look extreme, people assume something extreme must have been involved. So yes, this video is technically about supplements. But I need to warn you up front. If you're hoping for a long list of pills, powders, or some secret stat that unlocked fat loss, this might be disappointing, because the real question isn't what supplements Brian took. The real question is why supplements were largely unnecessary in the first place. And the answer to that had nothing to do with metabolism, and everything to do with how Brian approached the process from day one. For almost the entire 5 months, Brian didn't take any supplements. No fat burners, no metabolism boosters, no appetite suppressants, no GLP-1s. Just a plan devised for him, basic multivitamins, and the structure we put in place. And that decision wasn't accidental. You see, when I first met Brian, after I had already been told he wanted to work with me, I ran into him unexpectedly while he was on the move. He stopped what he was doing, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "I cannot live like this anymore. I have to change. Not I want to, not I should. I have to." And in that moment, I knew the outcome was already decided, because we win the battle in our mind long before we win in the physical. I could tell he wasn't negotiating with himself anymore. And what stood out even more was this. Brian brought more energy to the table than I did in my own transformation. Not physical energy, mental energy, resolve. See, my job has never been to convince people that they should live a better quality of life. I'm not here to persuade anyone to care about their health. My job is to find people who have already made up their mind that their health matters more than all the other things that they erroneously put ahead of it before, and give them the winning formula. Brian brought the energy, I brought the strategy, and that's where the magic happened. I know exactly what that kind of energy feels like, because I was once there myself. During my own transformation, I told my coach, if you tell me to eat paper, I'm doing it. No debate. No negotiation. Brian pretty much said the same thing to me. He said, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And that's all I needed to hear to know something special was going to happen. As long as someone brings that mindset, I don't care if they're in a wheelchair. We're losing weight, and lots of it. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying supplements have no benefit. They have a place. But most people don't reach for supplements because fat loss actually requires them. They reach for supplements because they want relief. Relief from hunger. Relief from uncertainty, relief from the fear that they're wasting time. Supplements become a way to calm anxiety, not solve fat loss. And this is important. Brian went into the process knowing things most people try to avoid acknowledging. He knew that he would be hungry sometimes. He knew the scale wouldn't behave day to day. He knew there would be weeks that felt slower than they should. But instead of treating those things as signs that something was wrong, he treated them as part of the process. Hunger didn't scare him. Slow weeks didn't frustrate him. Well, until the scale stopped moving completely after month 3. But if you want to know how we got past that plateau, go watch the video before this one, the first one in the series. But scale fluctuations in general didn't shake his confidence. He wasn't trying to feel comfortable every day. He wasn't trying to make fat loss emotionally easy. He was trying to make it work. And that's the difference. That's why entire industries exist to sell supplements people don't actually need. Not because the supplements are evil, but because they fill gaps in people's mental posture towards a process. They promise certainty, they promise speed, they promise relief. Brian didn't need that relief because his expectations were set correctly from the beginning. And he also wasn't doing it alone. He had something to lean on besides his own emotions. He had a coach he fully believed in. That matters more than most people realize. I didn't recommend any supplements because I knew he didn't need them. What he needed was consistency, structure, and accountability. And Brian didn't have any loose skin after either. In case you're thinking that he paid a price, Brian followed a few internal rules that kept him locked in. And these rules are the real lesson of the video. The first rule was simple. The plan does not change just because emotions change. Bad days didn't mean the plan stopped working. Hunger didn't mean something was broken. A bad weigh-in wasn't a reason to adjust. A stressful day wasn't a reason to panic. The second rule was that progress was evaluated over weeks, not days. Daily wins were information, not judgment. Water weight wasn't something to fear. Fluctuations weren't something to react to. Because fat loss doesn't happen in straight lines. And Brian accepted that. The third rule was that the goal was fat loss, not comfort. Discomfort wasn't a threat. It was a signal that the process was doing what it was supposed to do. The fourth rule was that consistency mattered more than optimization. No constant tweaking. No chasing better tools. No hunting for shortcuts. He didn't need perfect days. He needed repeatable ones. And finally, Brian prioritized behavioral goals above outcome goals. This meant that his focus was primarily making sure that he did everything that he was supposed to do daily, more so than looking at the scale. This is because once he covered those things, he knew that his outcome was inevitable. This last one was particularly important because with leaving home at 5 a.m. on mornings and not returning until 11 p.m. most days, it would have been easy to give himself excuses as to why he couldn't do what he was supposed to do. But he made this a priority. And once that order is put in place, then results will flow. Now, in the final week of the 5 months, we did introduce a fat burner. And I want to be very clear about why. Not to burn fat, but to temporarily manipulate water weight so Brian could hit a milestone number. We knew the scale would rebound. And it did. And that's actually the most important part. Because after stopping the use of the fat burner, Brian still went on to lose another 11 pounds and reach 210. That tells you everything you need to know about what actually drove the fat loss. I just thought 99 pounds in 5 months sounded better than 110 pounds in 6. So the only thing Brian consistently supplemented was patience. He supplemented emotional control. He supplemented trust in boring, repeatable work. That's what made 99 pounds possible. And that's what made keeping it off inevitable. So if you're watching this and you're wondering which supplement might finally make this easier, the better question might be this. What are you hoping it will save you from? Because this commitment to the process is the part most people never get help with. And it's the part that determines whether weight loss is temporary or permanent.